Hello everybody, my name is Walter, and this is episode 10 of my Redstone Commands Series. In this episode, I want to cover a rather useful feature, which are tag lists. So let me start with what tags actually are. To put it simple, they are a way to define a group or list of multiple things in Minecraft that can later on be referred to by just the name of the tag itself. So they represent a bit of a shortcut. You can group various things. You can group, for example, blocks or fluids, flowing lava, water sources, so on, items in your inventory, entity types, zombies, creepers, game events, functions, achievements, and a couple other things. All of those can be grouped, but only homogeneously. So you can only group blocks, or you can group entity types, but you can group blocks and entity types in the same tag. The reason here is they will all be in their respective subfolder in a data pack. So you will have a block subfolder with the blocks tags. You will have an entity types subfolder with the entity types tags, if applicable. So you can't mix and match. That's a rather important thing to realize here. So those here are not only the things you can group, those are actually the names of the corresponding subfolders. Where you can find them in the data pack, I will come to at a later point. So now that we have seen what you can group, let's talk about what you can actually do with tags. Primarily, you have two options for the usage of tags. The first is that Minecraft already comes with a lot of predefined tags that define its behavior in certain ways. For example, the blocks in the mineable X tag are the blocks that are preferably mined with an X. And if you change that tag, you change what blocks are preferably mined with an X. And you have the same for the hoe, for the shovel, and so on. You have also a tag for the blocks an Enderman can grab, or what entities can walk on powder snow, and so on. So by changing those tags, you can change the game behavior in certain ways. If you want to know what tags a block is currently in, you can do this by just going in the F3 menu, looking at the block, and then in the or below the block data, you can actually see a list of the applicable tags. So this here is, as you can see, mined with a pickaxe, and it's not part of any other tag. This one here obviously is in two tags. One comes with Minecraft, so predefined, and the other I defined myself. So this is my with an X, and this here is something for my brush or paintbrush data pack. So just a little example there. The second option you have is using the tags for filterings and selectors in commands. So instead of using just a single block type or a single entity type, you can use the tags instead. And subsequently, you are essentially checking for all of the entries in the tag instead of just checking for one entry. An example here would be the Minecraft slabs, which is also predefined and contains all slabs independent of the material. This also gets regularly updated when new materials get introduced. So if you're looking for slabs, you can use this, and you don't have to worry about updating the data pack every time a new material comes into play. The only issue can appear if, for some reason, the names get changed. That recently happened in 1.19, so I had to update one of my data packs. When using the tags and commands, you can also combine them with NMT data and block data, as if you were using just a normal block type or entity type. Now, just quickly, let me show you two examples on how you can use this. So this is a rather simple text. Here I'm basically checking whether I'm looking for myself, and I'm checking whether I'm in a group of entities that can walk on powder snow. And obviously I'm a player, so the test fails. If I tested this with, I believe foxes can do this, so I would get a pass. Or another test, this time for blocks, would be this one here. So I'm checking whether I'm standing inside of a slabs block, and apparently I'm doing that. If I walk on this stairs block here and make the same test, you can see it fails. So you can use it inside of commands, just as you would do with any normal block type or entity type. The only difference is that they start with a hashtag. That's the only difference to the normal block types, and this is the main point you can see that you're actually using a tag. And if you're using them as filters or selectors, you are just checking whether you get a hit on that list. You don't need to hit every single point on that list. So it's just one hit and you are golden. The exception to that rule are functions. Now, function tags are used with the function command. And instead of just checking something, they are executing every single function you are listing in the order they are listed, but only once. So if you are listing a function several times inside of that single tag, it will be only executed the first time it's listed, and every following time it will be ignored. There are two special function tags. The first is Minecraft tick. The functions listed here are executed every single game tick, so 20 times a second. This is something you use, for example, if you want to check for certain conditions, and if those conditions are met, you want to do something. So here in this case, I have a data pack that gives me this menu if I'm looking straight up. So it's calling a function that checks regularly if a player somewhere is looking straight up and then gives them a message. The Minecraft load is quite useful for initialization purposes. So since the functions in here are run every time you open the world or every time you use the reload command. So if you need to preset your variables or summoning something, you can do this with the load command or the load tag. Now that we have talked about what you can do with tags, let's talk about where you can actually find the tags and what they look like. To put it simple, they are just text files, ASCII files. You can open them with pretty much any kind of text editor, be it a simple text editor, be it Notepad++ or whatever. The only special thing is that they don't end with .txt, they end with .json. They are just renamed that way. But effectively, they are just text files. In the data pack, you will find them in the data pack itself in the subfolder data. Then you have the subfolder which defines the namespace. The default for that is Minecraft, but you can give it or define your own namespace by just renaming the folder something else. Then you have in that subfolder tags, then a subfolder that defines what type of tag we're talking about. Remember on the first page, this is the name of that specific subfolder then. So we have, for example, a blocks or an item subfolder, entity types, and so on. And inside of this subfolder, finally, you have the tag itself. The name of the tag is usually referred to as path and then .json. And this namespace path you have already seen before. Namespace path. And if you use them in commands, you have hash namespace ..path. That's how you use them. And that's where you also find them. So below data in the namespace, and then below the type of tag, you have them basically named according to path. Now let's look into one of those text files. So if you open them with a text editor, you will see likely something like this here. The structure is very similar to MBT data, or actually closer to JSON text from the previous episode, and is very simple actually. You can even format it as you wish with line breaks, additional spaces, tabs, and so on. The only thing where you can't do this is inside of those actual information. So you can't just make a line break in there, but you could make a line break before or after this double point, as an example. Anyway, let's get to the structure. You have on the outside the fancy brackets. Then you have a optional argument, which is replace. This is defaulted to false. So if you don't want to replace, you can leave it simply away, leave it out, and you're golden. If you want to replace, you need to set it to true. Now, what does replace mean? Well, if there is already a tag existing with the same name as this tag here, and replace is set to false, you simply append the tag. You add just the content of this list to the already existing list. So if you just want to add another block to the mineable X tag, you do it with replace false. If you want to completely override the existing tag, you'll have to set it to true. The replace true means you completely delete the already existing tag, and now it's only the list that follows in this tag here. The second argument is the actual values. And the value to that is a list of what you want to summarize in this tag. So we have again namespace path. For example, you will see on the next page Minecraft gold block, Minecraft iron block, Minecraft creeper, and so on. But you can also add tags to this tag. So you can, for example, make a bigger tag that contains all slabs and all stairs, which are already predefined tags. Lists, as you can see, rectangular brackets, and the different components are separated by simple commas. And that's the general structure here, just an example. So this here is actually from my paintbrush menu or paintbrush data pack. The replace false you can leave out. The values are, as you can see, iron block, gold block, all wool types, so all different colors of wool, and then obsidian block. And you can see there is not even the need to sort them in any way. Outside of functions, this doesn't really matter much in which order they are in there. If you're using a function tag or working with function tag, obviously the order plays a role. But anyway, that's basically all I wanted to cover concerning tags. I hope you enjoyed this little episode, and well, see ya.